Well, hello, lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel. We are going to do a repot with me video, and if you can't tell, it's nighttime. And this is when I like to sit down and do all of my repotting because there's no one to bother me while I'm doing it. We're off to a rocky start. I've already broken a plant and a pot and spilled soil all over the floor. And we haven't even started officially filming yet. So funny story, I actually started filming, I filmed a full repot with me video like almost 2 months ago, because that's when I jumped on Instagram and I was asking you guys, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a repot with me video, like what questions do you have? And I forgot to turn on my mic, so there's no audio. So you can see this is like historically a very successful thing for me, right? Great. But the good news is I actually did save some of the questions that you guys asked forever ago, and I'm going to address some of them while I repot some planty plants. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. I should probably check that my mic is recording the audio first though. Darling, you can't see it, but I brought one of the benches from our kitchen table over, and I'm sitting in front of the fireplace, so there's not a lot of leg room. First, we're gonna deal with tonight's casualty, and that is this philodendron black knight that I literally dropped on the floor, and it was bleeding. Is bleeding. Broke off 2 leaves, I broke off a new leaf, but the good news is I actually chopped this bad boy up a couple months ago, so I have cuttings that I can plant with this to make up for all of the carnage that's all over my floor. Oh, and we have wine, just to lessen the sting of how painfully awkward this might be. Okay, so I do have a terracotta pot. This one's from IKEA. I love planting all of my aroids, so like pothos and philodendrons, in terracotta because I find that it breathes better. And what I'm doing over here is I'm just mixing up my substrate, which is a nerdy word for soil mixture. So I have about 2 parts regular potting mix, 1 part orchid bark, which is like the chunky stuff like this, and 1 part perlite with a little sprinkling, little dashy do of worm compost. I don't even know how to get started. This is gonna be such a mess. Good news is this has got a super healthy root system going on. So just gonna kind of loosen up that root ball just a teeny tiny bit. The plant community is divided as to whether you should loosen up a root ball or not. I'm in camp loosen it up a teeny bit. First question is, what is the best plant to get started? That's a pretty easy one for me because I think that pothos are super easy. They're just so forgiving, which I think as a new plant parent is like of the utmost importance, because if you start off with a plant that's not forgiving and then it dies, you're not going to want to do that again. Pothos are, I call them really communicative, which is, you know, a weird way of phrasing that. I hear it. But they actually will get kind of droopy when they need water, and then when you water them, they perk right back up. So unlike ferns, when you don't water them and they drop a ton of leaves, or, you know, other finicky plants like calatheas, which I don't have very many of, and there's a reason for that. I just find that pothos are really easy. So if you're gonna get started with plants, definitely get started with a pothos. So I had these rooting in sphagnum moss. Not the healthiest root system so far, but you can see there's new growth right here, which is very exciting, and right here. So we're gonna go ahead and just roll with it. Oh my gosh, I'm making such a mess. Okay, so we've got 3 cuttings and then the massacred plant. Smoosh them in together. And whenever I'm repotting, I definitely only go up like 1 size pot. So it's usually only 1 inch or 2 bigger in diameter. So the first one was about 4 inches and this one's about 6 inches. Wow, Jamie, you're so profesh. Look at you. Just sprinkle it a little on the floor, why don't you? It's fine. It's fine. Oh, questions. This is complicated, you guys. How do you know when to repot? I didn't say this disclaimer just yet. If you are like a plant professional, like, I apologize in advance. I'm just an over-enthusiastic collector, and I really, really like plants, but that doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. Take everything with a grain of salt. or a sprinkle of compost, if you will. I tend to repot for one of two reasons. One, the roots are growing out of the bottom of the pot, and that is a pretty clear indication to me that homeboy is ready for a larger pot because it's like bursting to get out of there. All right, that looks scraggly and sad, but it's done. Perfect example of that is this plant right here. Hold on. Oh golly, I didn't plan this out well. Please don't fall, please don't fall. Hala! This is my Trio Star Stromanthe, which is a member of the prayer plant family. It's got like these really, really cool like white and green leaves with a vibrant pink underside. Wow. Wow. And the roots are literally growing out of the bottom of the pot. Shoot. I left the pot for this over there. Now, because this plant is a moisture-loving plant, I'm gonna use, I still have a teeny bit left over of my mixture from before, but I'm gonna definitely not use as much perlite or as much orchid bark because I want the soil to remain moist for a longer period of time. Should I put my hair up? What am I doing? We're getting it. We're getting it. We're on question number 2, so we're making it really far. Reason number 2 to repot a plant would be if the plant is clearly not thriving in its current medium or substrate. So if it's like it's struggling hardcore, then that lets you, look at that root structure. But if a plant is struggling clearly in its current pot, that could mean that the soil is not the best condition, which could mean that it's staying too wet for too long, or it's drying out too quickly, or the soil is just really old and it needs a little bit of a refresher. Now, because I spent a lot of time researching this, because I have no social life at all whatsoever, I've learned a lot about just like soil needs for plants in general. It does not make me an expert, but it does mean that I know a little bit. Like a teeny bit. Unless, of course, because there's a caveat to everything, unless it is a plant that loves to be root bound. In my experience, that's plants like spider plants, and snake plants like to be root bound as well. There's probably a whole list of plants that are like super, super happy, basically like with like no root space. This one is going into a pink pot. I hate the pink pot, but this was the right size. That's all I had. Which fertilizer do you use? I use Jack's All-Purpose Fertilizer. I wish that I could use Espoma. When possible, I really do prefer to use organic soil and organic ingredients and organic fertilizer. Actually, organic fertilizer is a great option for so many reasons. It's a lot harder to burn your plant and get fertilizer burn with an organic fertilizer because the chemical ones are obviously chemically made, so they have the perfect balance of nitrogen, potassium, and NPK. Hey Siri, what's the chemical that's marked by the letter P?
I found this on the web.
Phosphorus. Cool, well I knew that. It's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, right? I'm clearly like not a professional at this. But when you get a fertilizer that's chemically created, you get the perfect balance of NPK, so nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which is awesome. But you're a whole lot more likely to burn the plant by using too much fertilizer. With an organic one, you're less likely to burn it up. Save all of the bits of soil. Waste not, want not. Let's do this pot with the world's slowest growing plant ever. That is my variegated string of hearts. So I got this guy for an obscene amount of money, probably off Etsy. And it was like super, super leggy. So I chopped off a portion of it and stuck it in this amber bottle, let it grow some roots, and left this guy in this teeny tiny little pot. But I think we're now at the point where, hold please, probably potted up. The roots are definitely not as long as I would like. I like seeing them about 2 inches long if possible. Ooh, it's one of the worst feelings ever is tangling a string of hearts. I usually like when I'm water propagating, I like for the roots to be like more like 2 inches long, but I'm getting impatient. And like I said, I already filmed this video like almost 2 months ago, and I potted up a bunch of plants that needed to be repotted, and now I don't have as many. So we're just gonna work on some propagations instead. Ooh, okay. Speaking of lame root systems, that's like a single root. What fun. So for this one, I'm doing definitely a quick draining soil. They like to dry out a lot between waterings. So I don't want them staying wet for too long because they don't like their roots being too wet, which is another reason why I am plopping this bad boy in a terracotta pot, because that should help. We're knocking leaves off. How fun. What a great video. Somebody asked, how do you prune plants correctly? Listen, if there's a way to correctly do it, I don't know, because I just chop them. I mean, all joking aside, usually I will cut right below a node, which is like a point of growth that either air roots will grow out of or potentially new growth will come out of as well if you trim it there. So let me see if I have something nearby that I can show you that has a node. Wow, this is so successful. Let's do it right here. This one right here. See this little bump? Nope, you can't, because it's nighttime and it's a black plant. You can see those teeny tiny roots coming out. Those are actually potentially air roots. I would actually cut right here. We can get new points of growth from right here. And also this right here is another node. So if I plunk that into sphagnum moss, I could potentially see some roots growing from there. That's scraggly and probably will show no new growth for the next 12 to 18 months, but we potted it up, hey! I think it's time for a wine break. I probably should have checked my hair, but we're already this far into it. Also, how to identify plant diseases. Your guess is as good as mine. As far as diseases are concerned, I don't think I've had too many diseased plants, but I've definitely had houseplant pests, which is they're so annoying. They're so, like nothing, it's so frustrating to take such good care of a plant and it's beautiful and then bam, spider mites or mealybugs or fungus gnats or aphids or thrips. It just, but if you were looking for someone who does plant pest content, actually my girlfriend Becca with De La Plants has an entire plant channel. We love her. She does something called Plant Clinic, where people will send in DMs or pictures of their plants to her, and she will hopefully, ideally, help them figure out what's going on and help them figure out how to tackle it. So if you have an issue with your plant and you're not quite sure what it is, check out Becca's Plant Clinic, because that one is extremely helpful. What are we gonna pot up next? Hold please for soil mixing intermission. Enter something. Next up, we have this super cute Cebu blue pothos cutting. So it's in the same exact family as golden pothos, as all of the typical pothos that you see basically at every single store that sells plants at all whatsoever. And that's not me knocking it. It honestly is one of my favorite plants. And like I said earlier, they're ridiculously easy, but I like this one. They're a little bit harder to come by. I had a much larger one and I lost it to root rot. I'm very sad about it, but I've been rooting pieces of that plant in water, and I've got this cute little pot with like the little turquoise interior, and I just thought they'd like complement each other well. I don't know, I could be wrong. And ideally, I would like to put this plant into a terracotta pot, but I don't have one that I feel like is the right size, so we're gonna go ahead and do this one for now. Because it is a ceramic glazed pot, which means water can't come in and out through the sides. It can only come out through the bottom hole or through evaporation in the top. So it's gonna stay wet longer, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for you guys for this video. All right, let's get this. Whoop, spilled some more, yay! Whoa, see those are some roots, baby. The cuttings that I took are super long, so it's gonna stand straight up out of this pot. Okay, plants that need the least amount of care. I'm gonna be a basic person, basic plant person, and say snake plant or ZZ plant. They are low light tolerant. They do much better in areas that have more light, but they will survive in low light locations. On top of that, they also store water in their leaves, or like the ZZ plant, they have like tuberous roots, which basically means like it's like a bulb that holds water. So they don't need to be watered very often, which we love because that makes them very low maintenance. Same with the snake plant, while they don't have like the tuberous roots, so like really, really thick, almost looks like kind of like a potato, like a small potato. While they don't have potato roots, they do store water in their leaves as well, which basically means if you are a chronic neglectful waterer, those are your jam. You're gonna wanna get some of those. I have some outside here in Southern California, outside snake plants. They're fine. Like I forget to water them all the time. Next up on our list is a Pelia pup that has been living in this jar for far too long, much longer than I care to admit to the internet. You guys ready for this? This is gonna be delicious. What? Oh my gosh, those are massive. This should have been potted up a long time ago. Whoopsie. It's totally fine, especially since I repotted everything already for the first video with no audio. Favorite online plant shops? I have a few. Would have to be Gabriella Plants. You can find their stuff on Etsy. You can find them directly on their website. They also have a great Instagram. They're super communicative. Shane is, I don't know if he's the main guy that runs it, but it's been a family owned and operated business for years, and he is very active on social media. So it's really nice to buy from a company where like you know the name of the owner, and yeah, they're really cool. They're the ones that I got my Pink Princess philodendron from way back in the day. Great plant, in great condition. I'm giving a full review and I don't even need to because you just asked for the name of the place. Gabriella Plants, great. Also, I have ordered plants from the Sill and I really, really appreciated the quality. And also as like a plant dweeb, I appreciated the soil that those plants were planted in. Usually the plants aren't in quite right, like the soil isn't quite right, or it's not the right medium for them. So when you get it from a more curated plant location, they're very likely gonna be planting up your plants into a type of medium substrate soil that goes really, really well with the plant's needs. So I really like that. And then I also recently just placed an order with a company called Green Spaces ID. It is an international plant shop. I ordered directly from their website. From what I hear, reviews are hit and miss, but mine was so successful. It was such a hit. I got my Mamey, I got my Gloriosum, I got my Melanochrysum, all from them, and just was like, I can't. I need a minute. Almost in tears unpackaging them because they were so beautiful. It was not cheap. My order was very expensive, but I ordered a bunch of plants that I've always, always, always wanted, and they came in great condition. I'm trying to think if there's any others. I mean, I bought a lot of plants off Etsy, but they're all different sellers, so it's really hard to remember which one's which. And they've all been, some of them have been fine, some have been like a total bomb, and not like the bomb, but like a bomb. Somebody asked, what is a plant that you are dying to have? Very few, I would say, because I kind of hit my limit with plants. I mean, I've got over 200 of them, and I'm actually starting to sell them or get rid of some of them. It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And when I don't water them or I don't tend to them the way that I want to, I feel so guilty that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just killing plants. So for the most part, I have most of the ones that I want. If I had to pick, I think I would say a Philodendron White Knight or a Monstera Albo Variegata. I do have a Monstera Thai Constellation and it drives me bonkers. Speaking of slow growers, it's probably on the same level as the variegated String of Hearts. It just takes forever to do anything at all whatsoever. It's so frustrating. I like the Albo a lot better because the white is so much more dramatic. It's like a stark white as opposed with the Thai Constellation. It's a little bit more of a cream. But yeah, for the most part, I think I have most of the plants that I really, really want or have wanted for a long time. So that's pretty cool. It is kind of fun to get to the point where you're like, I kind of have most of what I want. Okay, I don't know what to do with you because you've sprouted a bunch of new leaves on the sections that I would plant. Stuff you on in there and hope for the best. Good luck. Somebody asked, what is a plant that you regret buying? So many. I would probably say the false Aurelia. Can't stand it. Can't stand it. Just like kind of want it to die. But I don't want to give it away because someone else is going to kill it. So if it's going to die, it's going to be by my hands. It just is like, gosh, it's such an obnoxious plant. It literally does nothing for me. I would have no problem if it just disappeared in the middle of the night. All right, that's good. Let's see. Oh, my battery's flashing. What a treat. I think that's it. I think that's all I've got, other than a gigantor mess to go take care of. You guys, I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me for just a little bit and chatting up some plant content. If you're new here, hi, welcome, and I'm sorry. This is definitely not a plant channel, but you know, once every month or two, I release some planty related content. So if you enjoy the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I hope that helps all of my friends who are wanting to get into plants because they're so fun, you guys. They're so fun, and I think you'd really really enjoy getting just as involved as I am. I'm just gonna take you all down with me. If you haven't done so already, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys. Just knocked this whole thing over. Oh, golly, and I just snapped off that leaf. No, it's bleeding. So sorry.